All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming out to the Chicago Tech Summit. Welcome to this rainy Friday afternoon. This is Breakout 1007, Improved Decision Making with Business Analytics in Microsoft Excel 2016. It is a 100-level class, so we're not going to go too deep into Excel as far as any code or macro specific, but we will do a couple live demos regarding cleaning up data, leveraging Power Query, and then also some new features that have been introduced as far as doing some visualizations with maps. So a little bit about me. I'm John Gruszczyk. I'm a deployment consultant in Microsoft Services. I specifically work with Office 365 and Office 365 Pro Plus. So I am not an engineering guy from the Excel team. I will be happy to answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability. But if you want to do a deep dive and ask any specific macro or remediation questions, we'll try and take those offline. I'll try and get you some help there. But don't shoot the messenger because, again, I'm not working with specifically with the Excel engineers, but if you have any feedback you'd like to discuss afterwards, I'll talk about where you can provide that feedback, and then also you can come up to me and we can speak afterwards. Just a quick overview of a couple of things we'll be talking about. We'll first get into this idea of the world of data is changing. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone out there. Data is out there everywhere now, and what we want is we want data from the data. We want to be able to use that data to make informed decisions that we can provide to our leadership team and managers. I know when I started out, even just in university, we got into SQL and we talked about the hot term, which was big data, which has been the term in about the past 10 years, and especially the past 5 years. It's all about how you can take this massive amount of data that's out there and best utilize it within your company to make informed decisions. Decisions are being made on this data rather than perceptions alone, which is kind of a shift in the industry. Even when you think about it in your personal life, how many of you out there use online shopping sites like Amazon or Walmart.com or anything like that? When you think about it, most of us go there because it has a lot of data on it, right? You're able to look at the star ratings. You're able to see what users actually reviewed the product for. That's all data that we take and we make it to use our informed decisions. Those classic brick and mortar stores, going there and actually just looking at a product, you can't tell how well it's going to work unless you know someone that's used it. You're able to speak with someone to provide on it. Whereas you're able to use these online sites and say, okay, it has 100 reviews and it's got a 4.5. That's data that you're taking and being able to make informed decisions. And again, big data has been the big thing. So you look at data mining and data science, machine learning, which is really big right now. Even cloud analytics, you see just about every time you're watching a sporting event, you see all these cloud commercials, how cloud analytics can better suit your business. And this all leads to a shift in the industry right now on how we better make decisions based off this data. I think it's no surprise that Excel is the most widely used productivity tool in the world. It seems like anywhere you go, the finance team is obsessing over their Excel, making sure the performance is ready. You look at some of the size of these spreadsheets. A lot of times people don't even realize that they're working off of Excel. So you might get everyday users in your organization that don't realize that a lot of what they do might be powered off of Excel or Power BI. So it's really out there a lot more than people realize. And you can, of course, get down to specific tools within your organization that might be for big data or data analytics, but it really is the preferred analysis tool for most professionals out there as far as data goes. So what we're going to do today is just demonstrate a couple ways that you could leverage Excel in order to make data more consumable, because that's what it's really all about, right? So you want to take all this data and you want to figure out how you can visualize it, how to make it publish, and then how to consume it best. So just real quick, I did talk about the improvements or feedback. So if there are any of you sitting out there that have Excel issues or want to be able to provide feedback to the Excel team about how you think you can improve or they can improve the product, there's a couple different ways. The biggest one is this excel.uservoice.com. If you go ahead and submit through there, the Excel team actually sits down at a weekly meeting and reviews all of these inputs. So it's not like you're just going ahead and submitting feedback and it goes to some server that it gets deleted. They're actually reviewing this every single week in a roundtable discussion and highlighting the high topic items, the high priority items, and getting those addressed. So they do take your feedback very seriously, and they would love to collect as much as they can. You can also deliver feedback through just telemetry alone. And again, this is important because most of our engineering used to have to fly around the world and able to meet with people in person and get sort of these feedback improvements, enhancements, bug fixes. Now we're able to leverage telemetry and identify how better to improve the product. So again, it is important to provide feedback. If you have issues, you can either work with your account team or you can go directly to that excel.uservoice.com, or you can even do it through Excel itself in the product. Today we're going to talk a good amount about the Better Together story with Power BI and Excel itself. And again, this is a 100 level class, so we're not going to go too deep into anything and be talking about code or talking about long formulas up on the screen and how you can best maximize those. But we'll take a look at a little of that stuff and do some cool things as far as cleaning up data and just how simple it can be for an everyday user. So we have this new diagram up here, or it's not necessarily new, but it shows this illustrating circle of the relationship between Excel, Power BI Desktop, and also the Power BI service. So one of the great things now is that you're actually able to use this as a full circle. What you can do is you can be in Power BI and also be having things published and working in Excel, and it's vice versa. So even if you're working in Excel, you can have it published to a Power BI report. You can do it up in, leverage through Office 365 itself. You could be using the Power BI Desktop app. But what we really wanted to focus on here is having the integration so that you don't have to pick one or the other. You could be working in one, switch to the other, and vice versa. So it's kind of a great story around here because sometimes people would be really comfortable working in Excel and they don't want to learn Power BI. They just want to be able to reap the benefits. You're able to do that. If you have a deep dive and a deep knowledge of how to use Power BI, by all means you can get into that. And if you need to switch over to Excel, it's a quick switch over. All of your data is still there, and it's not like you're having to reclose, reopen things. So one thing that was actually released is just the ability here. This is new with Excel 2016 with the integration, which we'll talk about on the next slide here. So we'll get into business analytics in Excel. This is a typical process that's been around for quite a while on, with the kind of the data stream and how it gets taken in and the five-step process. So this is very general. I know within organizations, you usually go to about step 3, even 2, or excuse me, step 3 of visualize and go back. But it starts with getting the data. So it's all out there. It's whether it's through SQL, reports, or however you're gathering your data. The first step is you got to get it. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to have your team, your reports, your tools, your applications. They're going to manage and analyze this data. Then you want to, after you have this fully analyzed, the typical step is to get it visualized, put it in charts, graphs, something that you can take a look at and say, okay, this is what makes sense of this data. And then we get into these final 2 steps, which are arguably the most important, publishing and consuming that data. And again, I know most of these times you might get to visualize and go back to analyze, but for the sake of this session, we're just going to say it's a clean step 1 through 5 process. But we'll start here with the get data. So I need clean data relevant to the question I'm trying to answer, right? So you have this massive amount of data, almost going out into a large cornfield, and you've got to find specifically what pieces of those corn you need to harvest. So you have this massive scale of data that most of the times, and in the past, we weren't able to figure out what points of data are most important to us and how to use those data points. So the first thing we're going to get into is Power Query. So we're going to talk about getting the data, and then we're going to talk about how to analyze and clean up that data, because you might have the best data out there, but if you're not able to clean it up and get it in a useful form, it's not really serving much of a purpose for you. So a little bit of the history of Power Query. It was initially an add-in in Excel 2010. I'm sure a handful of you out there have used it, and were pretty happy when it was released as an add-in in 2010. In Excel 2013, it was still also an Excel add-in, but one of the good pieces of information with Excel 2016 is that it is now built into Excel 2016. So if you go and look and you're looking for that Power Query add-on, you'll notice that it is no longer there, that it's built natively into the ribbon, and you'll see a little section as we get into the demo about it, and I'll show you exactly where that's at. But it is natively built in now, so you don't have to go and download the add-in anymore. It was kind of the fundamentals of Power BI. So now it was integrated automatically into Power BI and then also into Excel 2016. It is still a separate team, so Power Query itself, the engineers working on that, is not grouped fully into Excel, so they are focusing still on how to improve Power Query, but as far as an application and add-in standpoint, they now are integrated. So we'll launch into a demo here, and what we're going to do is take some data, and we're going to look at how to clean it up using Power Query and how easy it can be in just a couple of steps. So go ahead. You'll see here we have this cleaning data Excel spreadsheet. You'll see over here on the left-hand side we have times, and then we have dates and all sorts of different formats, and then we have the kilowatts per hour. And this was a common spreadsheet you might get exported from an application that you have, a tool, and it's going to filter it into Excel or pile it into Excel, and you might get data looking like this. Some of you out there might be absolute Excel gurus, and you think this would be a challenge, and you think maybe you can get it done and filtered in a half hour. But you're going to have some pretty complex formulas that you have to run that's going to be able to extract that data, move it to a different column, and make sure it's all in the same format and looking nice and presentable. So we're going to look at how you can leverage Power Query for this in order to clean it up in just a couple of pretty simple steps. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at is I mentioned that the Power Query is now built in. So this is where it is located. You see in this top left hand is this get data, and then you also have your transform data through these new queries here. So it could be from file, from database, and from file you have plenty of options here. You have text, you have JSON, XML, CSV files, and your plain old workbook. Also down at the bottom, you have from SharePoint folder. So if you're in Office 365, if you're leveraging the cloud already, you can just go and grab something straight from SharePoint. You don't even have to have it saved locally. You get down here, and again, from the online services, from Azure. So there's full integration if you're leveraging the cloud already, and just go ahead and grabbing it from there. So the first thing that we're going to go ahead and do is we want to go ahead and grab this data and start making some changes in order to make it more consumable for the end users and be able to visualize this data. So we're going to go ahead and grab this from table. So what this is going to do is start to perform the query editor, which will pop up here. And you'll see you have quite a few options. Some of you might be pretty familiar with this, and it might be a refresher. But for those of you who haven't seen it before, it's nothing scary. It's pretty easy to get used to and pretty simplified. So the first thing that we're going to do is go ahead and replace some of these values. So what you want to do is through Power Query is you want to start taking these values that are not consistent and figuring out how to eventually get them on the same format. So you see these ones with the underscores. Those are things that we're going to want to replace those values with a blank space that you're able to now get that on a consistent level. And it's about a 10-step process, but each time you're removing things, and the nice part about Power Query is using it is it's applied steps. So your end result is just a series of steps. So as you see, we're actually going to remove columns and delete columns, and it doesn't change the formulas because it's just a step. So if in step 8 I delete a previous column, it's not like you're losing the source of that data because it just goes in that step precedence. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a second. But we're going to right-click this column. We're going to start cleaning up this data slowly. We're going to select this Replace Values here. I'll go ahead and select the overall column and select Replace Values. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to want to replace an underscore with nothing. And you'll see here in this front half with the times and some of the other dates, you'll see it cleaned it up pretty quickly. And you'll see in this Applied Steps area in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see as it starts to build out the list of how we're actually doing things in kind of the task sequence. So the next thing we want to do is, again, we're going to keep replacing some of these values. So we're going to go ahead and select Replace Values again. And we're going to replace kilowatts per hour with nothing. And I'll do this first. I'll do it in capitals. And you'll see it doesn't change anything unless it can find it. So it is case and matching specific. So I'll go ahead and just delete this step. Or you can actually edit it as well, but for this purpose, we'll delete it. We're going to do replace values again. You see when I do lowercase this time, it's going to remove those values. So it is case specific, so you have to be careful when you're working with it. It's easy to hit caps lock or accidentally capitalize a letter. So you do have to be careful when working with Power Query that you're, it could be as simple as one uppercase letter that isn't able to find and replace all your values. So you do have to be pretty detailed there. The next thing that we want to do is splitting this data into different strings. So you see it's all merged together right here. So you have, take for example, this top row, 3 p.m. Monday, 24th March of 2014. It looks like 2014 0.384. So this isn't readable at all. It's not consumable right now. So what we want to do is split these into separate strings so we can start creating them in their own columns. So what we're going to do is go ahead and right-click here. We're going to do split column, and we're going to go and we're going to right-click here and do replace values. And what we're going to do is add a delimiter. So what this is going to do is, other words, a pipe, if you're a PowerShell guru. And what we're going to do is replace 2014 with 2014 and a delimiter. And you'll see what this does in the next step. But what it's going to do is it's going to help us start dividing out our strings. So we'll go ahead and click OK here. And you'll see it did add that delimiter there. It doesn't do anything initially, but now as we go into the next steps, we're going to right-click, split column, and we're going to select by delimiter. And you're going to get this short little wizard up here. And we're going to, under this drop-down, we're going to select custom. We're going to enter this delimiter that we did. And we'll leave this as the default here. And you'll see it just created a new column for us. And this put the kilowatts per hour in its own separate column. So you can see just how easy it was. I mean, this is a 100-level course, but that's pretty simple steps that you're able to do in order to split data like that. For those of you that have been working with Excel for a long time and have been doing things like this just through formulas alone, you can see here it's a lot easier just doing those 5 steps that you'll be able to do in about less than a minute, rather than having to formulate out complex formulas and to be able to split and columnize that data. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a date and we're going to parse it. So if we go to add column over here, you're going to see some options over here. So you have date, time, and duration. We're going to go ahead and select this date up here. And we're going to select parse. And you see here in this parse date, we're going to get some errors because it wasn't able to find consistency within all the data. So what we're going to have to go and is take a step back, and we're going to have to figure out how to format and clean up this data to get it on a universal symbol or universal format, and you'll see this parse date will then correct those errors in there. So what we'll do is we'll actually go back a step, and we'll select this change type 1, which is the cool part of Power Query. Again, it's just a list of steps, so at any point you can go back and you can add a step, you can modify a step, and you can delete a step, and it's just that process. So when you end up at your last step, all it's doing is going through that list of progress, and you get your end result. So we'll go back to this change type 1. And what we're going to have to do is replace all these values to clean up the date specifically. So you see in some of these we have the 19th in the date. We have the 22nd, 23rd. So we want to remove those little RDs and NDs and THs. So bear with me as we're going to go ahead and select this column again and do replace values. And you're going to see here it warns you, okay, are you sure you want to insert a step? Because it could change your end result that you have been previously seeing. So it's just a little warning and disclaimer that by inserting a step in between, you might get a different outcome than you expected. As long as you know what you're specifically doing, you're going to have no problem with this. And again, it's just a little disclaimer that lets you know you are changing the order in which it went. So we'll go ahead and click Insert here. And the first value that we're going to replace is RD. So let's see if I can find the first one, because I can't remember if it's capital or lowercase. Lowercase. And we're just going to leave it blank here. So as soon as we click OK, you'll see some of them get pulled out. We're going to do this with a couple of them, so we'll go ahead and click Replace Values. And again, it's going to prompt you because you're inserting a new step each time. So we'll go ahead and click Insert. Next, what we're going to do is TH. And again, we're going to leave it blank. And again, you're slowly starting to see this data get cleaner and cleaner. Right-click, we're going to do Replace Values again, Insert, we're going to do ND, and we're going to leave it blank. And we're going to right-click here, and we're going to do Replace Values, and we're going to do Insert. And the last one is ST, and we'll leave it blank. Now, when we go over to our parse date, you're going to see that it's got the consistent format in all of our dates. So it was cleaned up, and it was just as simple as changing and replacing 4 values, which even at 100 level, anyone can go ahead and get used to that wizard. You might be already doing it Word and different types of applications within Office itself. Even in Outlook, you're used to replacing values and looking for things like that. So it is pretty simple, and it's very simplified steps that you're able to take complex data and look how far we've gone already. The next thing what we're going to do is we're going to go down to this last row in the query. Or excuse me, so just for a demonstration, this is, I believe, over 1,000 rows of data. So you actually can see how quick this is, because this is actually a 32-bit version of Excel. So Power Query works pretty fast. I don't have a lot of things running in the background, but again, this is on a Surface device, and it's on 32-bit Excel, so you don't need to necessarily be working with 64-bit Excel and have a ton of RAM and a ton of memory that you're using on your PC. You're able to do this pretty much on the go and pretty quickly. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go back to this add column, and what we're going to want to do is do a time parse now. So we'll go ahead and select time, parse, and then you'll get your time slots over here. Now we're going to get into what I talked about, deleting the columns. So as we delete this column, you're going to see that none of our data actually changes because it's just a step in the process. So even though previously if you had working in an Excel spreadsheet and you're just working it alone, if you delete a source column where it's a formula is pulling its data from, you're going to get that error, and in this instance, you would have 1,000 rows of that annoying error message. Then you've got to figure out how to remediate it, what steps you did wrong. So the nice part about this, again, is if you remove a column or delete the data source, you're only deleting it in that step, so your end result is going to stay the same. What we're going to do now is let's go ahead and rename this column, because this was our kilowatts per hour. Come on. This is when live demos go wrong. There we go. And we'll just do kilowatts per hour. Go ahead and select Home tab, and we'll select Close to Load. And there we go. So you can stretch it out. Then you could take this data, and if you want to do some additional conditional formatting in it, if you want to change the tables here, we can go and select a nice blue. And it was just that simple that you're able to do those in a couple of steps. It took us about 10 minutes or so to go ahead and walk through all that. And you can, as you get used to Power Query, and I'm sure there's people out there that watched me do this and thought, wow, I could probably do that all in less than a minute. It's just a demonstration of how you can take data that was originally pretty sloppy, pretty dirty, and you can clean it up in as quick as 10 steps that pretty much anyone can do. So Power Query is a very useful tool to give to most of your employees that are going to be working in Excel, and if they're working with data specifically, how they can leverage Power Query to take data that's inputted from, again, if it's an application spitting it out, some type of tool that's within your business. If it just inputs all this data into and dumps it into an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV file, even if it's putting it into your Office 365 cloud, or excuse me, Office 365 SharePoint or your Azure cloud, you're able to input that data, and then you're able to use a simple Power Query and get this data cleaned up and presentable. Go ahead and close this one, and we'll jump back into the presentation here.
Can you automate those steps?
I am honestly not sure if you can automate it. From one of the sessions that I did see, you were able to do some automation with it, but honestly, I don't know the answer to that. Brian?
You can do some level of
Are the steps saved in the workbook or is it saved in your Excel?
Yeah, so it's saved with the workbook. Yep. All right, before we kick off to the next step, any more questions about that? Any comments? All right, go ahead and keep going. So data acquisition, this is a big thing as far as we look at data or acquiring data without Power Query. So all data is brought into the worksheet first. Transformation needs to go through Excel formulas. A lot of you out there have been used to using macros. Problem is when you get into large and complex macros, as we've seen, specifically me working with Office 365 Pro Plus, is as you might roll out a new Office version into your environment. So let's say you're used to working with Office 2007, then your IT comes in and you deploy out Office 2016. Well, those macros might need to be recompiled. Formulas might need to be re-edited in order to be used. So the complex part of it is when you're used to relying on macros, as the versions change of Office, you might have to recompile those macros and run into some compatibility issues. So by leveraging Power Query, you're able to kind of eliminate these steps and use a tool that's now built in natively into Excel, so you don't have to worry about, as the next version comes out, you're going to have to go back and re-edit and reformulate your data. So with Excel 2016, with the Get and Transform, which is the built-in Power Query, it's an easy-to-use UI to transform the data, as you saw. Transformation sequences are defined in the query editor, which was those steps along the right-hand side. Again, you can go back and edit them. You can modify the steps. You can delete a step. You can insert a step between. So if you're working through a Power Query and you're not getting the end result that you like, or for instance, you want to work and get the end result and then work backwards on how to clean it up even better, you can do that. So if you're someone that wants to work through each detailed step one at a time and get the end result an hour later, or if you want to get it done in 5 minutes and then work your way back and clean it up, However you'd like to do it, Power Query allows you to do it that way. It's automatically repeated during refresh, so if you do change any data within the Excel spreadsheet, it's going to automatically refresh and it's going to repopulate those values for you. So it's not like you have to go and rerun or recompile anything. When data is changed, the query will run and you'll see your data replicate almost instantly. To bring data into the worksheet, bring in partial data if needed, bring data to the worksheet or to the data model through multiple methods. Again, we covered through CSV files from different cloud scenarios. Powerful query language for advanced users. So for some of you out there, hopefully you're not too bored in a 100 level session, but I'm sure you've looked at it and thought, wow, there's some pretty cool things you can do out there with Power Query. I'm not super big into it, but there's definitely some things if you go to some more complex sessions. You'll see some guys doing some really cool things with Power Query, and I'm sure there's people within all your organizations that are doing some pretty fantastic stuff with Power Query. So in this last step here, we talk about queries being merged or appended. So you might already have something built out. In a more realistic scenario, you might have a query that has 20, 30, 50 steps. You're able to quickly merge those with other queries. You can append them as needed. So it's not like you have to rebuild off of all that. You're able to just quickly append it. So data acquisition, so this is the support for new data sources. You'll see in Excel 2013. We were a little bit limited. You still had your text, CSV, and XML files, SQL, Microsoft Query, and also the Enterprise Catalog Search. I'm not going to go through all these, but you see obviously the benefits that Excel 2016 has to offer. And the great thing is with Excel 2016 and Office 365 is that it's constantly providing new updates, new features as part of the Evergreen service. So actually this list is currently a little bit outdated because one of the new things that was released is SharePoint folders is now added to Excel 2016 as a possible data source. So that's what we talked about a couple slides ago. But you'll see that the Excel team is constantly looking for ways to improve. They're taking that feedback. So you'll see that there could be more alternatives to being able to import your data from different data sources. Next, we dive into the analyze phase. So this is where a lot of people spend most of their time. You need to make sense of my data and find insights within my data. So this is where you get that, you take what was that big mess of data, you get it all cleaned up, and then you're able to put it down in front of someone in this, let's say, possibly a 1,000-page report or whatever it is. But you need to be able to look through that data and find the details that you need that's going to better help your organization, whether it's just within IT, whether it's a business strategy, make a more informed and better decision. Because again, we're making these decisions based off of data and less off of perceptions, which is a change in the industry. So you're going to want to be able to look through that data and find what's going to be the best details. It's going to be able to make my decision the best, my business the best decision. So through that, through the data model, we're able to use either Power Pivot or also forecasting. So I'm sure there are some people out there that are familiar with Power Pivot and forecasting. So we're going to look at how to leverage Power Pivot to start looking at this data, and then also a little bit about how we can use forecasting to not only look at forecasting in the future, but we'll do a little bit of reverse forecasting so you can see what the forecast would have looked like, and you can do some comparisons there. So the Excel data model, Power Pivot, there's a lot of info up here on the slides, but by using Power Pivot for Excel, you can transform enormous quantities of data with incredible speed to meaningful information to get the answers you need in seconds. So that was a lot of words there, but the message is still the same. You want to take your data, you want to get it transformed, cleaned up, and presentable as quick as possible, and that's how you're able to use Power Pivot, forecasting, and even Power Query to get these things done in a matter of minutes, sometimes seconds, compared to what used to take people 45 minutes, hours. If you're looking at a 10,000, even a million, 15 million row spreadsheet, you're not able to get that data cleaned up, compiled, and ready to present to people in a matter of 15 minutes like you can using these tools. They are huge productivity increases. They're huge time savers, and that's why you see so many people out there. I know if anyone out here has worked with someone that is a true Excel guru, some of the things those people can do is absolutely impressive. I'm sure we have some people out there. And it's just by being able to leverage tools like this. As you start to play with Power Query more, you learn about more of the code that you're able to implement, more of the things that you're able to do. And Power Pivot's another way as well that you'll see as we get into it. There's things that you can start to take to the next level, and you'll get to see those people, and they're able to take data like this. You're looking at 10 million row spreadsheets that they're able to get cleaned up, presentable within minutes, and what used to take people hours, days, weeks. So take advantage of familiar Excel tools and features. So we're not changing like the UI and presenting all these new things. You're still able to leverage the same tools, the same UI experience that you had before, but just with increased functionalities and performance. Again, processing massive amounts of data in seconds. So one of the things that we talked about is, a 15 million row spreadsheet was one of the examples I heard within the Excel team, is able to be completely transformed, queried, and all that within less than 10 minutes. So if there's anyone out there that's been working with 15 million row spreadsheets, I've seen on customer sites, and I'm sure Brian and Chris can talk to this, the guys in front here from Microsoft, it could take some customers weeks to get that compiled. I've seen times where the people are working in Excel spreadsheets and they're so large that on certain client machines that the machine just can't perform, and Excel is going to keep crashing. Now you're looking at being able to leverage these tools in itself and get these things transformed in less than 10 minutes. We'll hop into the next demo here. It's going to be focused on the data model of Power Pivot and also forecasting. So go ahead and exit out of here. We'll bring open this T-shirts spreadsheet here, a T-shirt forecast. So this would be, I'll zoom out a little bit, a spreadsheet that some of you might see depending on what department you look in, but you see we have sales and year-over-year growth. So we have some pretty good presentable data here, right? We have our visualization in the lower right-hand corner in our pivot chart. We have our pivot table down here on the left-hand side. But this looks like something that you would go and you would see, in a marketing meeting or something like that that's already presentable data. But what we can actually do is take this data and clean it up better, and we can get actual more insights off it with forecasting and things like that. So the first thing we'll do is we'll go up here over to our data tab, and we're going to go ahead and select this Show Queries. So you'll see here that we actually already have 5 queries that have already been built. If we hover over them, it'll give you a quick preview here, So we have Facebook comments, time, product, actuals, and this is leveraging Azure SQL, and then we have budget. And you'll see it does explain the different rows, and you can see here when we look at this actual Azure SQL, this is over 5 million rows that we're looking at here. So now what we can go ahead and do is click this Manage Data Model. And we'll give it a second to load. This is one of the benefits of if you have 64-bit Excel, when you get into these managing the data model and also Power Pivots, Power Queries, it is going to run a little bit faster on 64-bit. So it's going to pop open this sheet for us here. And what you can actually do is switch to this diagram view. And I'll go ahead and expand this out. But for any SQL people out there, you're going to recognize this pretty instantly. This was one of the first things that you learned in SQL as far as going through the tables, identifying your keys, your primary keys, and all that. The one thing you'll notice here is that the budget table is actually not connected. We're going to do that as part of the demo. But the cool thing is, with Excel is you're able to take a look at these, look at the tables and their relationships between things, and switch between views pretty quickly. What we're going to do is switch back to the data view, and we're going to go down here and click on this measures tab down here. And what you're actually allowed to do is with these measures is you're able to do calculations based on the data and slice and dice it up all you want. And again, this is going to be an instant replication. So anytime you make any changes to these formulas, how you want to divide, slice the data up, it's going to be instant replication, and you're able to see it down here in this measures. This is the measure spreadsheet, but when you're using formulas down here, when you're using formulas down here and you get changes throughout the spreadsheet, throughout the pivot table, you'll see replications made here instantly, and especially if you're using 64-bit. 32-bit, depending on how many rows you have, and the client performance, so if you're on only the minimum hardware requirements, it will take a little bit longer, but if you're on a 64-bit machine with plenty of memory on it, you'll see these replications pretty instantly. So now what we want to do is we'll actually go back into the Excel spreadsheet itself. So what you can do is up in this top left-hand corner next to Save is you can click on it, switch back to Workbook. You'll see here this is the Manage Data Model icon, so all we have to do is click up here, and it's going to take us right back to our workbook. What we're going to do is select the actual sales pivot table over here, and we can close this Workbook Queries here, and you're going to see it gives us some options over here. And in this pivot table fields, what you're able to do is actually search for things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and search for budget, because as you saw, the budget table was not connected yet. And we have under measures, we have a formula for budget. We're not going to edit that. We're going to go down here and select budget amount. and it's going to go ahead and add that in. And what you see here is this message that says relationships between tables may be needed. So all this is doing is reminding you that that budget table was not connected and that you need to define the relationship. So what you can do is go ahead and manually create them themselves, or you can leave it up to the product of Excel to do it yourselves. And what we're going to do is leverage that. We're just going to go ahead and click this auto detect. You give it a minute, it's going to go ahead and create those relationships for you. Go ahead and click close. And if we go back to our managed data model and we click our diagram view, you're going to see budget is now relationship. So you see it goes over to the product, it goes over to the time, and again, that was one simple click with auto detect. It's able to map those out for you. For any reason that the data model or the relationship was wrong, you're able to go back and edit it and manually create it yourself. But from all the demos that I've did and working with the Excel team, that auto detect feature works very well. So now we're back into the managed data model. We're going to go back and we're going to look at how to do some forecasting with this. So are there any questions on that so far? Yes?
The formulas that you write in Power Pivot, how do you export those out? Because our accounting team wants to say, hey, are these formulas right? They want to look at them. Is there a quick, easy way to do that?
As far as exporting those formulas out, I'm not aware of one. Yeah, if you want to follow up with me afterwards, we can look at that. But I'm not sure if anyone in the room is aware of something like that. But I'm not aware of a way to get those exported. Any other questions? All right, so we'll go ahead and switch back to the Excel view here. And we're going to look at some forecasting here. So we're going to scroll over to our 5-year product history. And I'll scroll out a little bit. But this is kind of a typical forecasting spreadsheet that you would see. You have your over time here. You got a bar chart. You got a graph chart down here. And we're going to look at how to do some forecasting with this and also do some reverse forecasting to look back. So we're going to go ahead and highlight this T-shirt cell here. And then under under data, you're going to see this, where is it? Forecast sheet. So this is something that is also new in Excel 2016. So it's right next to the what if analysis. So we'll go ahead and click the forecast sheet. And it's going to pop this open for us, and you're able to see some different forecasts here. So you're going to see your lower bounds, your upper bounds, and just an idea of what you're able to make these forecasts off of. And again, it was a quick little step. All you have to do is hit forecast sheet, and it's going to give you this option to create your own worksheet and add some customizations to it. So we're just going to leave it as is. You can drop down this menus, and you see here that you can edit your timeline range, your values range, confidence levels. So if you want to go ahead and change your confidence levels, you get some different limits on your upper and lower bounds there. So there's a lot of things that you can play around with. Again, this is a 100 level class, so I don't want to be going and changing too many things. But if you are an Excel guru or someone that's using it constantly, you're able to leverage some of these things. You could even go to the seasonality and set it manually. So there's a lot of really cool things in here that you could change to better help your data and your forecasting. But again, we'll leave it as default, and we'll go ahead and click Create. And then it will give you a little warning or a little pop-up here. So it says, this table contains a copy of your data with additional forecasted values at the end. You can manually edit the forecasting formulas in this sheet or return to your original data to create a different forecast worksheet. So now we're working with this data forecast sheet. As you see, it created sheet 1. So what we'd want to do here is we can go ahead and rename it Forecast 1. And if you want to go back to that 5-year product history, you can go ahead and create, off of T-shirts alone, you can create another spreadsheet. Let's say you want to change that confidence level or some of the other settings in there to get different outputs. So you can go ahead and create as many as you want, and you can compare those results. For the purpose of this demo, we're just going to look at doing it once. So as we scroll down here, you'll see this is where it gets into the actual the bounds that it sets. So this is where it's going to start its forecasting. So in July 15th is when it first starts populating the values. And you see here, it lines up here. What we can actually do is if we want to take this formula and put it back in time, we go back here, and you can see it's added this reverse forecast back in time. So previously it only went up to July of 2015, and you notice now it's going back much further. So if you want to go back in time, it is something that you can do, and you can play around with the forecasting. All it was is a simple drag up of the formula. So as you get into these, again, I want to keep it 100 level and not go too much into all these, but you're able to play around with these and get different results. So Instead of just analyzing the data, you're actually able to make different type of predictions and calculations, where previously this used to be something that you'd have to go and write a formula for, tinker with it, and be able to get type of these different results or different outcomes. You could spend hours or even days on. Now you're able to take this, again, and you could create a report, or excuse me, a forecast sheet in that 5-year product history off t-shirts again, change some of these upper limits and different bounds, and you could have multiple or 5 spreadsheets here within a matter of 5 or 10 minutes. So the productivity is just at the fingertips, or excuse me, at your fingertips. You're able to do these things extremely quickly, so when you're working with this big sets of data, you're able to make these predictive decisions off of data that's being able to be calculated, published, visualized, and consumed very quickly. So if we can take these other ones, and just for example, we'll go ahead and drag these up as well, and we'll get an error here because the formula, when I was playing around with it last night, but you'll see here, if we do get these errors and you go back to here, it's going to demonstrate that. So you see there's a sharp drop-off. So it is pretty nice in that you're able to, when you're playing around with these, if you do get errors or differences in your formulas, it'll show it as a representation on that chart. So you're not going to go into a marketing meeting or going to present to your manager with something crazy like this because you made a mistake in the Excel spreadsheet. We'll go ahead and close that one and get back to the content here. So any questions on forecasting? Yes? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you repeat that one more time?
It looks like it's just using a forecast formula that you can use elsewhere. Did I see that correctly on the screen?
Correct, yes. Yeah, so the question was if it's just using a forecast formula. So you actually see these forecast formulas up here. There's actually more that you can dive into. There's some really, really cool detailed formulas that you can go to. There's some wiki pages through Microsoft. There's some guys that have really deep dive into what you can do with these formulas, how to make them more complex. They are well documented online on what you can do with these, what the variables are, how you can start compounding them, and get some really, really cool data. If we did that in this 100 level session, there'd be plenty of people that would just give me very poor ratings because it went too deep, too fast. So these are well documented online, so if you're interested in what those forecasting formulas look like and how to tweak them and get some very detailed and fine results, you can go ahead and do some Bing searching and pull these up. You'll find some papers on them, some advice, some blogs on how best to use these, and some little tips and tricks on how to get your forecasting how you want it. But you are right, yes, it just uses a simple formula. Now we'll get into visualize. So this is where you need to explore your data and you want to make it more compelling. So as IT pros out there, you want to be able to take this data, you want to figure out how to get it compiled, you want to get it cleaned up, and then you leave it up for the most part a lot of times to the marketing teams, the people that are going to make it look pretty and present it. They want spreadsheets, they want bar graphs, they want different types of charts. Something that's going to be able to, when they go present that data, that it's easy to visualize and you're able to find those points that you're trying to drive home through your business. You want it visualized and very identifiable that these are what you're trying to focus on. So we'll talk about, with this, charting improvements. So with visualizations, just because bar charts and pie charts, or excuse me, pie graphs and bar charts and different type of timetables have been around for a very long time, there's always improvements that can be made. Can we make it, as far as the color schemes go and making it more identifiable? Is there better formulas that we can use that these charts are going to be better calculated and better visualized? And one of the cool things that we're actually talk about in data visualizations is this maps feature. So with Office 2016, there were some new charts, or visualizations released. So we look at this tree map, sunburst, histogram, Pareto, box and whisker, waterfall, funnels, maps. So if you're a statistics guy or girl, these things are probably pretty exciting for you to be able to leverage some of these new different types of visualizations that you can present. So when you're going into these meetings and trying to present your data to people, you might find that just using an everyday old pie chart wasn't communicating the message that you're trying to receive. And let's say you look back at maybe Excel 2007 or Excel 2010, you were a little bit limited in what you could do. What we wanted to do with Excel 2016 and going on in the future is figure out how to take this data and make it more presentable. So you look at in this bottom right-hand corner, you have this idea of maps, which we're going to get into in a short demo here. But you're able to use the leverage power from Bing Maps, and you're able to take data and actually get it plotted across, and here are the examples of the United States. In the demo, we'll actually look at doing it across different countries. You're able to get it populated, and the data represents on there. So previously, something like this, you might even have to draw out by hand. You're able to get the data and the calculations for what this would look like, but you'd have to take it down to your publishing or your printing department and say, okay, I need a map of the United States. These are the data that I have. I need these shades of these states to a certain color. You can do this all straight in Excel now through a couple simple, pretty easy clicks. You'll see some of the improvements that were made in Office 2013. We got chart recommendations, combo chart UX, live previews, proximal UI, task panes, and rich data labels. So these are things that I'm sure many of you out there have been playing with already. And again, the exciting part is with Office 2016 is there were some new data visualizations that were released based on feedback, what we heard from customers and organizations on how they can better present their data. So we'll get into time grouping and some of the new charts that we're able to present here. We'll look at this. This is a map spreadsheet. So what we're going to do is, this is all U.S. states here. So this is our first spreadsheet. It's going to be real estate data U.S. So we have our U.S. states, the average listing price, and also the median sales price. Median sales price is also not populated for all these. But what we're able to do is highlight these columns here. Go over here to Insert. And we have this new feature here. Depending on what version of, if you're using Office 365 Pro Plus or Office 2016, it's going to depend on what channel you're on as far as if you see this feature specifically. It's pretty newly released. It was actually first released to the quickest branch of Office Pro Plus, which we won't get into because this isn't that session. But just do know some of these features that I was presenting today, they are publicly released, but depending on what your IT is rolling out for updates, you might not see these yet. So if you're interested in some things that I presented, you can come talk with me afterwards. Otherwise, you can work with your IT team and figure out what build of Office you're on and when you can expect to see these features. So this Maps is one of them, so we'll go ahead and select Maps. And we'll go ahead and select here. And this will populate and start to, it'll be powered by Bing Maps. And you'll see it'll start to put together. And I'll make this a little bit bigger here so we can resize it. And you'll see here, it was a chart that was made based on all this data powered by Bing Maps. And you're able to take, and again, you won't have to go down to your printing departments or your publishing departments. You as an IT pro are able to do this, even if you're in the marketing department itself. You're able to just do this all straight through Excel now. You don't have to go and work with other teams. This was done in a simple click of highlighting the 3 columns, going up to Maps, and selecting this. Very quick and easy. Then you're able to publish this however you'd like to. So it's just an example of how simple things are really getting with productivity tools. And again, in the past, this could possibly take a week, 2 weeks to get fully done, get it printed, and get those charts up there. Now you take a look and you just get this created. You send it over in an email as an attachment, get it printed. You can have it at your desk, within an hour. The one thing I will point out too is when I was talking about maps, there's probably some of you out there that are talking about, or thinking about, is maps different than 3D maps? And yes, they are. We still do have 3D maps in here. So if we go back to Insert, you will see 3D maps over here. So this Maps is an additional tool that is, again, powered by Bing. So it's able to go in and pull it from the, excuse me, yeah.
Once it's created, does it remain offline? You don't have to be online?
Yes. So once it's created, all it does is that's why you saw that little bit of a lag there when it went out and it populates. So it goes and pulls it from Bing Maps, and then it gets populated, and yes, you don't have to be online. Any other questions?
Can you break it down into smaller groups?
As far as the different segments, like if you wanted to break it down to like regions and things like that, yeah, you can. It gets a little bit more complex as you go into editing it, but yes, you can. So we could actually, if we go ahead and add data labels, is another cool one that you could do. It doesn't look great on these states because you'll see here that they don't fit. But depending on what data labels that you're using, how big you're going to make it, you can actually do some pretty cool things here as far as visualizations. So the next one we'll switch to is we'll go ahead and go over to this Global Scope tab. And this is just going to be an example of how it's not only for, within the United States, but it is powered off of Bing Maps, which is global. So you're able to take something like this. We have some Chinese data here. We'll go ahead and highlight these columns, and same thing. Go ahead and do maps. And again, so it will hit Bing Maps, populate, and look, we have the same data, or excuse me, different data, but visualized in the same way across China. So we can go ahead and give ourselves a chart title here. We can go ahead and add some data labels. Resize our chart. And with these data labels here, you see that they actually fit pretty nicely on top of there. And this was, again, created with highlighting the columns and just doing a simple click on the maps, and it produces it that quickly. So the productivity is really at the tips of your fingertips, or excuse me, it's at your fingertips within Excel 2016. A lot of the improvements made in here were focused around how we can help you do your jobs much more efficiently and quickly, in the fact that you're able to take this data, get it cleaned up, and get it presentable to your IT, your managers, your leadership team, whoever it may be, in that much quicker fashion, because decisions are being made quicker and quicker. We want more data to make those decisions on. So it's very important to be able to get the best data that you can, get it cleaned up, presentable, and then revisit if it needs to be reanalyzed through that step of process. But you'll see here, the idea of publishing these charts and these visualizations, even for just a review, are very quick, and you can go back and tinker with them. It saves those queries. It's in the Power Pivot, Excel. You're able to go back and edit those. So even if you went and did something like this and went and met with your manager and said, this is what I was thinking, this is what I made sense of this data, you can work with them, and they say, I wish that you would have done this differently. You can then go back into your workbook and again, go back and just insert a new step, modify a step. It's not like you have to go and redo and start the process and start that hour process again. You're able to go back there and just add a simple step, recreate or duplicate a worksheet. Simple as that, and get that done within minutes instead of hours. Any questions on the map feature? Yes?
Can you give it street addresses or GPS coordinates?
I do not believe that you can give it GPS or street coordinates, no. I'd have to double check on that, but I don't believe so. Any other questions? Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that it's the actual replacement for the add-in, but it is designed to be, it's going to be fully integrated with Excel going forward. I would look for continual improvements in it as well, as far as tinkering with it. Maybe you could look at something doing, actually entering a street address or things like that. Also, as the other gentleman pointed out, being able to customize and dissect into a region. I'd look at more improvements in that. I'm not sure that it was, a true replacement, that they took out the add-in and replaced it with this. I may be wrong on that. I don't know if that's what.
It's trying to add additional visualizations into Excel standards, so you don't have to do the add-in step. So it's not a replacement. It's just we're adding in features so that those are common things that we're adding.
Yeah, and I would look for continued functionalities released in this, because this was something that was, pretty recognized as within the product group or with the Excel team, that this was a feature they were trying to get pushed out. It was released again about publicly, I think 2 or 3 months ago, so it's pretty new out there, and so this is just the first wave of it. So you'll see a lot more improvements that will come out in the future, and a lot more tinkering that you could do as far as detailing the data down. Any more questions before we hop into? Yes, at the back.
Does it support like a pinpoint map? I know something my company uses. My boss likes to see, green stores, yellow stores, and red stores in pinpoints.
Yeah, that's one of the. So the question was if you're able to do like the pinpointing maps. That's a feature that or functionality that I would look to towards in the future. Right now, it's pretty basic as far as what you're able to do with things like that. But as far as the future functionalities, I would look for things like that. I'm not promising that it's going to come, but it's an area, again, that was released about a couple months ago, and I would look for things like that, being able to detail down, being able to do regionals, because these maps are very important, especially in visualizations. You look at brick and mortar stores that are doing exactly what you talked about. They want to be able to visualize and see, okay, where are our yellow stores, our red stores, our green stores? So look at further customizations to that, details, to better help you make informed decisions. Yes?
These features
As far as the question was if these features are available on OS X or just on Windows, what they are is they're released in the version of Office specifically. So I don't know if these have been released in either the MSI version or the OS X version. I'd have to double check and go back and look. You can look at the release logs each time a new version is published. Again, I don't want to get into an Office session here, but when it breaks down to it, it depends on Office 365 Pro Plus is always going to receive the most updates as it's part of Office 365's Evergreen service. So if you are on Office 2016 MSI, there are features in here that you might not see. But as when it comes to Excel like this, the Power Pivot, the Power Tables, or excuse me, Power Queries, those are universal features. But when you get some of the tinkering, so like the maps, I'm not sure how those will replicate out. I would imagine they would probably be universal because Excel is such a widely used tool, but I can't guarantee that all of the things that you see in Office 365 Pro Plus will make it into OS X or the 2016 MSI version.
Most of our features that are shown up here are based on Pro Plus, so you'd be dependent on a build number.
Like the general Power Query, yeah, is going to be standard and universal across. But when you get into the the further functionality improvements and being able to take what we did here and fine tune it and do the details, I could foresee that being released only in Pro Plus. But if it's a general feedback thing within Excel or a functionality that is clearly widely used, I would guess it would be released across all versions of Excel 2016 and OS X, MSI, and Pro Plus Click to Run. Any other questions? All right. We'll go ahead and get to the end of our slide here. So we'll go ahead and do current slide. So this is just what we were kind of looking at in part of the demo. And what I wanted to point out is these timetables. So we get over here, and this is what the visualization that what we did looks like. So if you wanted to do something even as detailed as California, so this is something that if you are, let's say, a company that's just located out of a single state, you'd be able to do something like you mentioned with your stores. You'd have to do some conditional formatting with that, but you're able to do some pretty cool things within just a single state and get it, kind of formatted out that way as well. The next one you see here is the timestamps, so the time group columns are added to the, time group columns are added to the model. So you're able to get quarters here, and then within the quarters you can expand it out and you get months. So there's some pretty cool things that you can narrow it down to here. You see that it's date for the month, date for the quarter, and date for the year. So with pivot table fields, again, this is a 100 level course, so I don't want to go into the many that you can make, the relationships that you can do. But if you are a pivot table guru out there and really enjoy working with them, I can tell you that from live demos that I've seen and people that I've seen on customer sites that are working with these, there are some really, really cool and fascinating things that you could do with them. And I'd recommend when you're around working on some things like this, save a copy and then make a local copy that you can play around with, and play around with some of these functionalities and features and see what you're actually able to make that data do. There's some pretty impressive things that you could do with just tinkering around, and if you're really familiar with pivot tables and how relationships work and all that, you're able to make some really, really cool looking pivot tables, pivot charts, and things like that. We get into our last two steps here, so this is where it gets into the publish and the consume. So with publish, you need to share your findings with others. So you've already analyzed the data, you've already made it visualized, you have it in your nice charts, maybe it's in a couple maps like we looked at, but now you need to figure out, okay, I'm going to present these to my leadership team, and you also need to view and interact with findings, spreadsheets, visual data, et cetera. So you want to still be able to consume this data when it's visualized and published. You don't want to just, have it nice and charted out. You don't want to go ahead and publish it, and then it's not touchable, right? It's on a, let's say it's just on a big screen like there, a big white piece of paper like this that you're looking at. Well, you can't take that piece of paper down, go back and edit it. The nice part about when you're using and leveraging Excel and Power BI, Power Queries, Power Pivot, and things like that, you're able to just go back in and edit those Power Queries and edit all of those things that you change. So if you have a presentation in a matter of 15 minutes, your manager comes in and says, you know what, I need you to tinker with these confidence limits, I need you to do a different type of map, et cetera. You're able to go back into where your data source is. It's already cleaned up. You could leverage that Power Query, and you're able to make changes, replicate those out instantly, and your biggest issue is going to be finding someone that can print that out fast enough for you. So the ways to publish it, so we look at publishing through either SharePoint, Office 365, or Power BI, and then consuming it, so you're still able to leverage Excel Online as well, which if you're using Office 365 Pro Plus or you have an Office 365 tenant and subscription, you're actually able to do all these same things within Excel Online. I will add that if you're working with 15 million rows, I would recommend using 64-bit Office with sizable performance enhancements on your PC, because it's going to take a little bit to calculate. But you can do all this in Excel Online. Again, I'm on a 32-bit version of Office here, and I was able to do all those things with millions of rows. So it is very quick. It calculates very quickly. You're able to do it in Excel Online. So if you're on the go, you're on vacation, and your manager's bugging you that he needs you to go ahead and change some visualizations or change some data in there, you're able to just hop on any type of browser, open up Excel Online. You can access the data source from SharePoint, and you're able to do all those edits. Also, if you have Power BI, the desktop app, or you can use Power BI as well. The other cool thing is, so Power BI does full file Excel and renders via Excel Online, which I just mentioned. And the other one is you can actually select components to publish into Power BI. So some pretty cool things as far as publishing reports to SharePoint directly, so you don't have to worry about publishing it to your desktop, then uploading it up. You could actually have the option to publish a report straight up to Power BI, or SharePoint itself. So if you're working with a group of people, you can just go ahead, finish up your data, publish it out there, sign off for the day, and it's up there already. Say you go home and need to edit that data, pull open Excel Online, or if you're working from home and you have the Excel desktop application, pull that open, go ahead and access it in SharePoint itself again, make those changes, and it will just republish it back to SharePoint. So everything is cloud enabled. So in this world of mobility, it's important to be able to analyze the data that we need, but you also want to be able to do it on the go, and that's what Excel really offers with 2016 and Excel Online. Publishing BI reports. So you see here I want to publish my Excel report. How? So we can actually publish it within Excel, so we can put it to our OneDrive. So if you have a OneDrive for Business, you can put it straight to your OneDrive folder there. You can do a SharePoint on-premises. So if you're still using SharePoint on-premises, you haven't adopted Office 365 SharePoint Online, you're able to just do it straight to your SharePoint. You can also do SharePoint Online as you see in the next one, so Office 365, OneDrive for Business. There's multiple opportunities there, so you might have a SharePoint site made up for your team. Again, you can just go ahead and publish those straight there. The first one to OneDrive, that's actually OneDrive, your personal account. So I'm not sure how many IT pros out there want you publishing things to your personal OneDrive account, but that is an option if your organization allows that. And then lastly, what we talked about is you can publish it from Excel straight to Power BI. Uploading your workbooks to Power BI. So bring your entire Excel files from OneDrive for Business to PowerBI.com. You can view and interact with the workbook in PowerBI.com. So you can see here we just have two short pictures, but you see this bottom left-hand one, is the Power BI desktop app. So you're able to see when you publish those reports, you're able to get it in the Power BI desktop app. And also this top right-hand one is what it looks like when you're publishing it out. So you'll click that upload or the export, and you'll get your drop-down options there. Publishing BI reports for the Excel add-in, so you can connect directly to data in the Power BI service, analyze that data in Excel using pivot tables and pivot charts, and then you can export it out to any of those methods that we talked about. And a quick summary before we go ahead and open up to any last questions that we have here. So each of these are kind of broken down into a silo and what the important steps are. I don't want to read across each and every of these. I'll kind of highlight the main points, but so with Get Data, you have the Power Query integration. You have it now built into Excel 2016. So you saw that Get and Transform data built in directly. You don't have to worry about installing an add-in. It's all built in there natively for you. So you have new data sources as well, which was important when we talked about pulling it down from the cloud in this cloud-friendly, cloud-first world, being able to import it from Azure, being able to pull it down from SharePoint, et cetera. Analyze, you have the enhanced analysis experiences. So we talked about Power Pivot, data modeling, usability improvements. We went through a quick demo there of how to analyze the data. Also, the other one is Analyze Power BI and Excel. So we talked about that full circle of life between Excel and Power BI. So now the cross-platform and being able to work with on the back end, it actually is the same code. So being able to switch back and forth between Power BI and Excel without ever worrying about losing progress or having to restart anywhere, you can flip back and forth. Next, we talked about enhanced visualization, so new chart types that were released in Excel 2016. The big one that we just demoed there was just the regular maps features. So 3D maps do have a power map. We also talked about time grouping. These visualizations, it's going to really depend organization by organization which ones work best for you. But do know, in the future we do look at still publishing different types of visualizations. It's stuff that the Excel team takes very seriously and what they can continue to improve. So if you do have feedback on what type of visualizations that you'd like to see, or even if you have visualizations that are out there, let's say for instance the maps, you're not able to do exactly what you want to do with it, go ahead and provide feedback either through the tool or that Excel user voice link that I'd mentioned. Go ahead and provide feedback there and say, it'd be really cool if within maps I could click on a state and then it'd zoom into the state. I don't know how realistic it is that the Excel team would actually implement that, but they are always looking for your feedback. So if there are visualizations or changes that you'd like to see, go ahead and submit those. Easy publishing, so we talked about the various spots that you could publish to, whether directly to Office 365, SharePoint Online. If you have a SharePoint on premises, it's either your OneDrive Business or your OneDrive Personal accounts. Publishing models and straight to the Power BI from Excel itself. So there's a lot of different ways that you can now publish reports and get them accessible to everyone. Lastly, we talked about consuming the data, so better Excel online consumption, search and filters, value field settings, you can read through all those. And as far as consuming data goes, this is where the Excel team is constantly improving, making new functionalities and improvements. So as you see, 650 plus million total users, 25% Power BI users. So across the world, everyone is using Excel. There's no hiding it. You go into an organization, you would be bewildered if the finance team was using really anything else to do their data analytics. So there's such an investment within all organizations and companies into Excel. It's only right that the Excel team is making it back. So that's why I mentioned those feedbacks are very important to them. They want to know how to continue to make it better. So you as individuals, organizations, IT pros can make better informed decisions on how to analyze your data, consume it, publish it. All 5 of those steps, they'd love to hear feedback from you on how they continue to make it better and the product's better for you. So last, we'll go over just a couple quick Excel resources here. So these are areas that if you saw anything in these slides that didn't have enough detail for you, which is very possible because we kept it high level, these are some great resources for you to go to. So as the gentleman in the back mentioned about the formulas, this is where they're documented online and how to play with them. So this first one is the Excel community. This is a great place to go if you have any questions. There's SMEs from within Microsoft, from other companies. I've learned from visiting this community, actually, some of the best Excel gurus aren't even part of Microsoft, and they're actually on here answering questions for you because they live and breathe Excel. So they're up here answering questions and providing input and things like that. So that's one community. It's techcommunity.microsoft.com, and you're able to ask questions in there. There are Microsoft resources that monitor it, so if you do need Microsoft-specific advice, you can go ahead and post a question on here, and you'll get a response back. The other one are some free Excel resources. So the first one over here is the Excel Hands-On Lab. So get hands-on. You're actually able to play with it and walk through it and see what some of these features are. So if you're someone that is in this session because you really just want to learn how to use Excel better, or if you're someone in here that has a 500 level knowledge of Excel and you just want to train and play with some of these new features without using real data yourself, you can actually go and work with some of these labs and figure out how to transform, how to publish data, things like that. It's pretty fun. The labs are pretty informative, and they'll walk you through each step and what each step actually means. So you're not just going through step by step, you're actually learning what it does. This last one here is the Excel training course. So on edx.org, you're actually able to take quite a bit of Excel training courses to get more familiar with even things like functions, macros, things like that. All right, well, thanks for taking time out of your day to attend this session. Any last questions for you? All right, well, thank you. I'll stay up here if anyone wants to come up here and has any questions or feedback that they'd like to provide. Thank you.